Hey everybody, my name is Ethen Ostroff. Thank you so much for joining us. I am a personal injury lawyer outside of the Philadelphia area. I handle cases in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, but also have connections in every state across the country and can make sure that your questions are answered regardless of where your situation happened. Today we are talking about what kind of cases do personal injury lawyers handle? And why do they handle those cases? So before I get into that, just make sure to click that subscribe button below. Follow us along on this journey where we're going to be diving deeper into really important, frequently asked questions in the personal injury space and make sure that you completely understand what's going on with your particular situation. I hope that you are not going through something where you're hurt and not at fault. If that's the case, click below for a free case evaluation. You'll hop on the phone with either me or a member of my team. You'll get on the phone with a lawyer from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to make sure your questions are answered. So if you have anything in particular, if you're going through something, click that link below. We'll give you that free consultation. Make sure to hit that subscribe. And now we'll dive a little bit into on what kind of cases do personal injury lawyers handle. So, personal injury. What is a personal injury? A personal injury in its most basic sense is where someone was hurt and was not at fault. Different states vary on what percentage of fault that plaintiff can have and still recover, but the basics of a personal injury case are that you got hurt and that you are not at fault at least by 49%. So if you are 51%, not at fault, or 51%, if a jury determines that you are 49% at fault, in most states you can still recover at least 51% of the verdict that they give you, depending on the law from each state. So the different kinds of cases that a personal injury lawyer will handle are just a general injury, you got hurt, not at fault, that can't really be categorized. So for example, an electrocution case, a car accident case where, let's say you got rear-ended, you're always going to win that case. But if you got T-boned, it's going to come down to who went through that red light. And then another kind of case would be a premises. And within premises, there are sub-cases like slip and fall, trip and fall, or any sort of injury that happens on either a business or a friend's house. Other areas, dog bites, medical malpractice, mass torts. So let's say that there was a product just like the Johnson & Johnson sunscreen that was just released, where it was just revealed that there was a dangerous amount of benzene in that product. That got recalled because it was causing cancer all over the country. So a mass tort will happen when one type of product, just like that sunscreen, is released nationwide. Several people have very similar types of injuries, so their cases sort of get grouped together. That's what a mass tort is. Class actions are what personal injury lawyers can handle, where let's say that the Experian case a few years ago, your data got hacked. On millions of people's data got hacked, their social security numbers, their credit card numbers. All those people are going through a very similar type of damage, and they all should be compensated pretty similarly. That's what a class action is. In terms of how you prove your case, typically in a personal injury case, if you got hurt, regardless of the situation, electrocution, dog bite, car crash, medical malpractice, whatever, a personal injury case is where a plaintiff, a victim, got hurt when they weren't at fault. So if we put that case in front of a jury would have two questions in most situations to answer. Question one, liability. Who is at fault and what percentage? So let's take that car crash example. Two cars, one car is the defendant because they caused the injuries. The other car is the plaintiff. They were put through something that wasn't their fault. Those cars collide. The jury then determines what percentage each party was at fault, if any at all. So in, let's say, a rear end situation, the defendant might be 100% liable for the injuries that the plaintiff sustained. That brings us to question two, damages. How much is the pain and suffering worth in a dollar amount? So let's say that you broke your arm, you broke your leg. A jury's going to say those injuries are worth X dollars. $50,000, $1 million. It's up to that jury to decide that. The jury is in charge of the facts and making a determination as to what happened. A judge is basically the gatekeeper of the law. They make sure that the jury is instructed properly, that the lawyers don't go out of bounds when they're presenting their case. So in terms of what you need to do in your personal injury case, a personal injury case is just getting hurt and not being at fault. That really has no complete definition. There are, of course, different case types that are handled in different ways. So, for example, to prove your medical malpractice case, you need an expert who is a doctor in a similar field to the doctor that maybe, let's say that you had a surgery on your leg and that doctor left a piece of gauze in your leg. And you wake up 3 years later and you have an infection that's causing serious problems in that leg. A doctor would need to testify that the surgery you received was below the standard of care of what is reasonable for a doctor to do in that situation. That's why medical malpractice cases can be so expensive, because you need to actually hire a doctor not only to give you treatment for your injuries that you sustained, but also to testify at court that what happened to you shouldn't have happened. Without that doctor to testify, you can't prove your case. You can't prove that that other doctor was, back to question one, at fault for what happened to you. So other areas, like for example, cases where liability isn't so easy to prove as a rear end. Let's say that you were walking across the street and there wasn't a pedestrian crossway when you were walking across the street, but it's an area that is frequently walked through. And it is really dangerous for cars to be passing through that area because they can't see that person crossing the street. So let's go to exactly where you think I'm going to go. You cross the street, you get hit by a car. You didn't have pedestrian crossway, but you were still hit, and it was probably not your fault, and it shouldn't have probably happened. The question that the jury needs to answer is, who was more at fault? Was it the person because they did something they shouldn't have, crossing where there wasn't a crosswalk? Was it the designer of the road, like let's say in Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, should they have put a pedestrian crossway? Or was it the driver? Should the driver have been aware of that person crossing the street? These are the types of complex situations that a personal injury lawyer will deal with for you when they know what they're doing. They know who to go after from an insurance perspective to make sure you can get adequately paid. They know who to go after as to who a jury would pick is at fault. So there are really a lot of factors that come down to how you prove a case. But in terms of the case types that a personal injury lawyer will help you with, if you aren't sure, just think about it like this. Were you hurt and probably not at fault? If so, you might have a case. You might have a personal injury case, and you should reach out to a personal injury lawyer because they don't get paid unless you do, number one. And number two, they offer free consultations, just like I do, just by clicking that link below. So if you do have any questions, whether you do have a case or not, a personal injury lawyer will answer that question for free. That's the beauty of personal injury law. We only get paid when you do, so there's no harm in shooting a call to us. It's completely confidential, it's completely free, and you will get those answers that the insurance company just doesn't want to tell you because they don't want you to make that call because they know that they're not going to get out of a discount if you hire a personal injury lawyer for your situation. But there are tons of different case types. I see new ones come up every day. I see products get recalled all the time. If you think that you might have been hurt in a way that was preventable, then that's a case. Reach out to a lawyer today. Make sure that you're getting your questions answered. And if you have any questions in particular, reach back out to me. I will answer them myself. I'll hop on the phone with you personally, or a member of my team will. And we'll make sure that you feel in the loop, that you understand what's going on, and that you are not feeling abused by these insurance companies anymore. So if you have any questions, make sure to click that subscribe button, follow along, click that free consultation link. We'll make sure that you feel in the loop. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much.